All right guys, welcome back to the channel. This is probably one of the biggest videos that I was looking forward to. I'm doing an awesome install for today on this car. Finally, we get to put a new intake on this car. This is one of the most fun and exciting mods for it because not only does it probably make the most power, but it's also going to make some of the coolest noises that you're going to get on this car from this turbo. And I have the best intakes for it that you can get. So this is a Eurocompulsion intake for the Dodge Dart 1.4 turbo. Now, I also do have a couple other things in here too as well that I'll go over. Some variety of hoses that you're gonna need to do this. It is important to note that this is a 2016. So it's going to be a little bit different because we have a couple of different hoses over here that the 2013 and the 2014 models do not have. So if you are doing this for the 2016, I'm going to cover that. It's going to be the same thing for a 2015. We just need to make sure that we get all of our hoses routed correctly. So I will get to that. But for the time being, what we're going to do is we will disassemble this and get this off right now. So I'm going to start by removing our hoses right here. To get these clip pieces off here, you'll have a gray tab on the back side. What you'll do is you're just going to push this with a finger and then pull it off. Same thing on the bottom one. Now that our hoses are off, these are disconnected. So we're going to move on. I'm going to take this bolt off right here. This is a 10 millimeter. Then loosen up this piece right here just with a screwdriver. We'll then remove these pieces right here from the air intake box. We have a 8 millimeter bolt right here, and then also one in the back right there. We'll remove this just like so. If you are changing out the air filter, this is where it would be right here. This part just will come right out, and then you swap your new one back in. If we take a look at this one, looks pretty decent. I'm not going to be using it, so don't really matter. But next up, we'll just need to take out this last black piece right here. So this kind of goes into the wheel well. That's going to be the tub for the liner down there, the plastic part. We should be able to wiggle this free and get this out of here next. So we'll just pull this straight out the top. Looks like there is one clip on the back side that's holding in some of the wiring. We're just going to have to take a screwdriver and get that clip out of there, and that is the only thing that's holding it. With the air intake box all the way out of the way, I just gave everything a quick wipe down in here, kind of got all the dirt and debris out of here. Don't want that getting into our new intake. We're now going to take our arm off the car, so we need to disconnect all these hoses on here. So we're going to take all these little clamps like this one here and just get these removed. I already moved this clamp back, and then we can start taking off all these hoses here. Once you have all your hoses removed from this piece, then you can go ahead and loosen up this clamp right here, and then we can pull this arm straight off of the car. Let's go over this new setup that we have here. So this is a K&N Apollo intake air filter with the Eurocompulsion silicone hose here. This whole kit is by Eurocompulsion. They make it. It is a very nice and very premium kit for these Dodge Darts. This is claimed to be probably the best intake setup that you can get for your turbo. It has the most gains. The piping on it is the most straightest, so that way it allows the most airflow going to the motor. It's just the best setup that I've found for it. The other things you're going to need is, since this is the 2016, we do have some different hoses on here compared to the 2013 and the 2014. So I have a multitude of different hoses here. I have some 3/8 hose. I have also some 5/16 hose, and I have some 4mm hose. So 4mm hose, 8mm hose, and 10mm hose. I also do have a vacuum tee here. This is for 3/8 inch. This is going to work on one of my hoses. We're gonna try this setup up. I'm gonna show you where all the hosing is gonna go on this and where we're gonna route everything. We're just gonna go ahead and we're going to mount this in here. Same thing as that other arm hose piece that we took off. We're just gonna connect this over the turbo right here and we'll clamp it down, and then we will do all the hose routing next after that. This is clamped down and into place. This part will basically just fall into that little tunnel that bottom piece is down there. If you take a look at this intake here, there's only a couple ports on it. You have this top one right here, you have this back little nipple piece right here, and then you have this big port over here. So we have 3 ports on this. The old intake here, you have 2 ports on this, and then we have 3 on this. So we have quite a few more on the stock setup than what is on this. So in order for us to figure this out, we're going to be using a T, and basically what we need to do is make sure that every single one of these spots that has hoses in here has something going to it and has an intake pressure source going to it from this intake here. So we're going to start from the very bottom here with this big port, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do for this. For this one, this is the biggest port that goes to your intake right here on the very top. So we need a hose that goes from here and is going to go into this. This is normally where the big port's going to go. And if you follow this all the way back, this goes to this one right here. We're going to remove this and we're going to replace this hose, connect it to this part right here, and route it all the way to this big port right here. We'll get this piece out of here. We're going to take our 10mm hose. This is the biggest hose that I have. This is going to work just fine. This should be big enough, and we will fit this over both this section here and also this port right here. Make sure to put some little clamps on these two so that way it doesn't come off. But we're going to cut this to size and then we'll get this fitted on here. I just have it coming around the back here, and then we are connected up to, this is the air oil separator, I believe, up top. This definitely did have to stretch quite a bit in order to fit over it. I would probably recommend getting like a 12mm hose for this. I think that would have worked a lot better. I may end up switching this up if this does begin to be a little bit of an issue, because this opening is obviously going to be a little pinched right here. Still does have enough of an opening to get in here, and also I might be a little bit worried about this coming off. It's on there pretty darn tight right now. These silicone hoses do stretch a little bit, but we're going to get this clamp on here, tighten it up, and we're going to call that good for now. And then we're going to move on to one of our next ports right here. So this is going to be the next little bit smaller. So this is going to be the 8mm. So we'll move on to this one once we get that tightened up. I'm going to also use, and I'm going to need just a T. This is a 3/8 T. This will work just fine. You could also use a 5/16. It doesn't matter. Either will work. If you'll notice, like I'd mentioned, there's 2 ports on the stock intake here. And this is what makes this different from the 2013 and the 2014 models, is that it has these 2 right here. So basically we're going to be using the T as our 2 sections that we're going to use here. We're going to take a short section of hose, route it to about right back here. We're going to place the T right here, and then we're going to route both of our hoses to our accessories that need them. This hose is what's going to be going to both of what these are for right here. So if you follow these, we have one of these that goes to the back of the fuel. Looks like it's going to be that one right there. And then the other one snakes all the way over to your intake intercooler piping tubing right here. So basically we're just going to be routing these around the back of the engine and to their spots over in here. I'm going to show you what this looks like, and I'll tell you about the routing. We're going to try to make everything nice and clean as possible when we do this. I don't like messy engine bays, so I'll go ahead and do it, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like. My routing is now complete for this other hose here for my 8mm. So we took this up. We used a 3/8 inch 3-way T right here. And then we have both of these hoses. So we'll take this back one here first. This one just comes back here, loops around, and it goes right to that little fuel piece right there. And then my other one here, I just have this tucked in underneath, going back around all the way down underneath this here and coming all the way to your intake pipe right there. Everything has hose clamps on it, so we are nice and secured up. I am going to take, I believe I showed these previously in one of my last videos. So these are just some hose separators. These are gonna keep everything kind of nice and organized. So I think this is the 3/8 inch size. I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna put it and kind of connect these two hoses back here, so that way these are a little bit more secured up. So we'll throw these on and then we can move on to one of our next ports over here. I did have to remove one of these hoses for the front piece, so if you follow this back, this connects to the very bottom side of this. I had to pull this bolt out in order to get this piece up, and I'll show you on the bottom side here. Right on the bottom side of this, that's where the other end of that hose goes to. So we'll be routing one of these hoses to this piece right here. That's where this one did go. We'll take this, remove it, and then we just need to get this other bottom one off right here. So we'll get this piece off. Looks like it's in a little mount right here, and then it goes down to right there. That's like the boost solenoid, I believe. So we'll get this one removed and taken off of there. And then I also did find a T for us to use, so we'll route both of these hoses off of a T, similarly to how we just did this one right here. I just finished up. I'm just going to show you my routing that I did here. So this is for the very small hose piece here in the back. So I have a very short section here going to a 3-way T, and these are all the same size. I believe this is 4mm hose, so this is just going to be the smallest one. But I have this bottom one going all the way down and routing down to the very bottom side of this boost solenoid. I showed you that once I took it off. There is also a clamp on the bottom of that, so that one won't come out. And then I have this other one here going over the timing cover. Looks like it does still clip in that factory piece there, so we used that, retained it, coming all the way up to the bottom side underneath this piece right here, this sensor on the back of the engine. So that takes care of everything here with our intake. I do want to swap out this hose right here. We'll just get rid of it, add a little bit of color to it. So I'll just take this off and we'll get that one switched out too as well. So that way everything matches up pretty nicely in here. Once that is all done, we are good with all the hose connectors on this car. Everything should work as long as it's going and it's routed to somewhere. So basically all these spots just need a vacuum source. I would like to get a couple more clamps just for in here, but for right now this will work. We're gonna move on to this. So this is from MaxFire high performance ignition coils. I picked these up for the car. These are a very nice set of ignition coils here. So we got 4 of them, obviously 4-cylinder. You're gonna have 4 of these. They will go and replace our factory stock ones right here. So let's get one of these out of the package and I'll show you what it looks like. Here's what they look like. These are premium. They are super nice ignition coils for this car. Definitely paid a pretty penny for these. These are gonna help with the car in the high RPMs. If you have the stock ones, they may not be able to keep up with all the performance mods, especially when we get this tune done. At those higher RPMs, they might have a tendency to break up. That's why these are so important, and that's the reason that I wanted them. Also, it does add a very nice touch of red to the engine bay right here in this middle section, and it's gonna match all of our other red silicone hose that we have in here. So they're gonna look pretty sweet too. We're gonna pop these ones out. They're just a 10mm bolt on every single one of them. And then we have this clip right here. Be super careful not to break these yellow tab clips. These pull back first, and then you can go ahead and unclip them. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pinch on both sides of this yellow piece right here, and you're gonna pull up on this from both sides. So if you take it and kind of wiggle it back and forth, it'll start to come up a little bit. And once it's finally all the way up, just like so you can see there's a little bit of a gap in between here versus this one, which is all the way down. That's how you know that this one's up, and that's your safety release right there. So then you just need to push down on this black tab right here, and then you can pull this out while you're pushing that down, and this will pop free. once you do that. Normally, I don't torque things unless it's very vital engine components, because I would say that your ignition coils are pretty important. We're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna torque these up. I have this set to 8 foot-pounds, so that's what I looked up. That seems about right. So let's get every single one of these torqued up, and then we can clip them in after that. You can see this intake, it actually falls right kind of on this guardrail piece right here for the frame, and this part kind of does stick up a little bit. I'll show you back here right where the pinch weld is. So this goes all the way underneath that intake, and looks like this intake does bang on it. You can hear that right there from me doing that. So kind of to keep that from banging on there, I found a little bit of edge trim that we're going to use here. I plan to put this on that pinch weld, so that way this is kind of a rubber piece here. It's softer, and my intake isn't going to be banging onto the frame of my car. So we're going to try to put this on that pinch weld piece just to kind of add a little bit of a protector to this intake. I was able to get this rubber trim piece on. I'm just going to show you with the flashlight here. So it goes all the way underneath that intake, all the way to the back, and then I have it stopping just right there before the motor mount. So that bottom part is covered. This intake, if it does bounce around, it's at least bouncing around on a little bit of a softer piece. I may also look at putting some type of a bracket from this spot right here to one of these little nuts on the intake, just to kind of make things a little bit more secure. I don't really want this rattling around a ton. Other than that, that's going to be it for the intake install, and also the Dart Madness ignition coils. Last thing that we'll need to do with this is we're going to do a quick test drive. I want to hear what this intake sounds like, and also kind of get a feel for how it performs. Already a pretty noticeable difference, especially with that turbo, hearing it spool up, hearing the little flutters. So let's go take this car on the block. Probably gonna try to get on it a couple times just to kind of see if the throttle response changed at all from the intake. It's supposed to help with that, but also there's a significant amount of gains that we're gonna be seeing in the horsepower and the torque. So let's go see how this feels. I don't know if you can quite hear that on camera, but it definitely is giving the turbo a nice hissing noise already. This is with the stock diverter valve in the car too as well, but we are getting some nice flutters. Sounds good. And I have to say, it does actually feel a lot more responsive than it did before. So these cars have a lot of throttle lag, and I would say that it did actually help quite a bit. We'll give it a little bit of gas here, see what it can do. There is definitely a significant difference from before this intake and after. I'm not just saying that just because, but you can definitely feel it. I don't even have a tune yet on this car, and you can just tell this wants to get it, so this is sweet. It's hard to think that this is where this car is at right now with just a couple of basic mods on it. I'm still going to be doing a couple other things to it, like the exhaust. I have a crank pulley to do, obviously the tune, but this feels awesome right now though. With that test drive now completed, that is going to be a wrap for this video. Hopefully you liked it. Make sure to like and subscribe.